Hey y'all, welcome to the Liberation is Lit podcast where the power of storytelling meets the force of social change. I'm your host, Taylor Simon, and in this podcast, we believe in the profound impact of stories. And I am super excited to be here with author Vanessa Miller. I met her a couple weeks ago at the Winter Institute, which is American Bookseller Association conference, and I was just so excited to connect and I'm excited to talk about her new book and all of her other books she's written, The Filling Station. So, hi, Vanessa. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing good and I am so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, can you kick us off by telling us a little bit about yourself as a writer?
Well, I have been writing since I was a kid, actually. I always knew that writing was the thing that I was going to do. I didn't know how to make it happen. Of course, when I was a kid, I started out with poems and short stories. I've done several stage plays, and then you started trying to write my novels. And the first 4 novels that I tried, I was never able to finish. And then, I years passed, I'd finally finished the novel, and I sent it off to a professional editor who she ripped it up so bad, I put it in the closet and didn't look at it for several years, and I just went back to college, finished my degree, and then once I was finished with my degree, I was trying to decide I was praying about what I was gonna do, um, next, and I was thinking about grad school because I love college, I love higher education, so I was thinking about grad school, and I heard God so clearly remind me about that book. And so I went back and pulled it out of the closet that I just had it on the floor in there. And I just began to rework everything that this editor told me. And when I sent it back to her, she said, "You went from wanting to write to being a writer. And there's a world of difference between the two." And that's been over 20 years ago. And I still remember that comment because that was the day I felt like, yes, I am a writer. And so that was my first book, which is titled For Moraine. So since then, I have released about over 50 books since 2003. And so now I am doing historical fiction, and I write Christian fiction. It's been inspirational romance, women's fiction, and now I'm doing historical fiction. And so I'm just really happy to still be able to write the books that speak to my heart.
I love it. And I love just that shift and you not giving up and
Yeah.
letting those edits get you down because what kind of inspires me is Toni Morrison said that she's not a good writer, she's a good editor. So, going back and reworking and that really makes you really transition, like you said, from wanting to write to becoming a writer.
And I
And
feel that. I feel that so much because I always feel like my first draft is terrible. And then once I cut it up and I begin to rework it, then I feel like I'm actually making progress. But that first attempt, oh my God, I'm like, who told me I could write this book? Why am I even trying? So, but once I begin the editing process of it all begins to come together, thankfully.
yes, and I know as a writer myself, I'm getting very discouraged from, okay, this book should come out perfectly, you know? I can't go back and
Yeah.
do anything to it. It's just got to come out ready to publish,
Yes.
and just that has given me a lot of hope. And so your last couple of books are about historical fiction.
Yes.
So what drew you to historical fiction and sharing stories rooted in the past?
Yeah. It was actually an author friend of mine, Lisa Wingate. I never thought, even though I have always loved history, it was one of my favorite subjects in high school and in college, but I never thought I would be writing historical fiction. When I came back to traditional publishing because I had been gone for a while, but I had been just doing indie projects. And so when I got another publisher and I came back to traditional publishing in 2020, I said, okay, I'm going to write women's fiction. And so I sent the first book to Lisa Wingate for an endorsement. She gives me an endorsement. That book was titled Something Good. So when I go back to say thank you, I had been reading a book of hers and I told her how I was enjoying it. And she was like, I learned about that subject from a Facebook friend because she writes historicals that are based on true history. And she said another Facebook friend told me about the Kingdom of the Happy Land. And she was like, Vanessa, since you live in North Carolina, you might want to research that. And so I went and I just did a quick Google search. And then it told me about this kingdom that was in America that I knew nothing about. And Queen Luella Bobo Montgomery, I fell in love with her story. And I knew I had to write it. And that became my book, The American Queen. And so I wrote that one, then The Filling Station, and it was another story that I just had to write. And because it's about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, but not just about the race massacre, because I couldn't write a book that would just be about destruction. I am innately a hopeful writer, an inspirational writer. I believe that, God has given me the ability to write, and I want to inspire my readers whatever it is I'm trying to inspire them to do with the book. I always feel like that's my job. And so in these historicals, I want to inspire them to believe in the resilience of our people because we are some resilient people. And so that's where I am on this historical journey.
And that is a great segue to go a little bit deeper into talking more about the filling station.
Okay.
And what did you learn about the Tulsa Race Massacre, and how did it kind of change you as you were writing this book?
Mhm. That is such a good question. And in some ways, sorry for the noise. Was just getting ready to show you this because I don't have a book on my desk. So the filling station is here's the gist of what this story is about. What I wanted to do was to be able to bring this story of Greenwood to my readers. I wanted them to know about O.W. Gurley, who was the founder of this area in Tulsa. He comes to this town and he buys 40 acres of land. And you would think 40 acres of land is not all that much, but let me tell you, there were about 12,000 residents in Greenwood. So what they did, I wanted people to learn about this because this was the area that was called Black Wall Street. And actually, Booker T. Washington dubbed them Negro Wall Street because that was the term back then, but we know it today as Black Wall Street. And he did that because in this area, they compacted so much. They had like a 3-level home. And what you would have on the bottom level would be a business. The middle level would be where the family lived. And then on the third level, there was another business. Or either the second level would be another business and the third level would be where the family lived. And this is what they did. And this is how they were able to have so many businesses and homes in this area. And it was just a wonderful thing to behold until an angry mob of white men come into Greenwood late one night and they come in with airplanes, with guns, with fire. They throw fire torches into their homes to burn them down. They go into their homes and loot the place. Airplanes are dropping bombs on the homes. And you end up, so you would think this is the end of the story for Greenwood, because just about everything is destroyed. They kill several of the residents of Greenwood. The record is saying it's about 300 people who were murdered during this uprising. And so this is not the end of their story, though. And what ends up happening is that the residents of Greenwood decide they will not be destroyed. They will not give up. They will not turn away from what they know is theirs. So they go back to Greenwood. They're living in tents because everything is destroyed around here. They have to rebuild. And the mayor is trying to rezone them because he's found these developers who want the land that they've now burnt down. And so they fight against the mayor. They fight against the corrupt system that would not even arrest any of the men who were responsible for this. And they rebuild this place. They rebuild their homes. They rebuild their businesses. And see, what you have to understand, and what a lot of people don't know, is that Greenwood became more prosperous after the massacre than they were before, when they had already been dubbed Negro Wall Street. They became more prosperous, and it was because they had this never give up attitude. They were resilient, and they fought back, and they built their economy back up. And I tell that story in the filling station.
And that's so interesting because not a lot of people know about Greenwood in general, but I feel like the way I learned the history was, okay, Tulsa was burned down and bombed, and that's it.
Right.
I never learned the other side of and they rebuilt and they fought back. Like, I never learned about that side of the story. And I really like what you did in the book, not to give anything away, but I really liked how you centered it around two sisters.
Yes.
And kind of their relationship being tested because of all of the loss, and how they were able to kind of you were able to show the resilience of their relationships, in addition to the resilience of this entire town and how they fought back. And the story is unfortunately still relevant to today's times, and even gives us that inspiration to know, like, how our ancestors fought back to be able to rebuild and come back stronger. And in these times we're able to fight back and come back stronger than we were. So I really love that. You always
Amen.
have this inspirational angle to your writing.
Amen.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my next question is, learning about this history can be really tough, but you push through and you always find a hopeful and inspirational angle. What keeps you grounded in this work as an author?
Well, first of all, I believe it is our relationship with God. The fact that I can, I sit back and I pray, and I try to ask for direction in what I should do. And my readers, I love my readers are so good to me, and that's why I always telling writers not to write for the market, but to write what speaks to their hearts, because you're going to find a readership out there that, loves what you do, and so we don't have to say, oh, well, this is what's hot right now, and this is what's hot, so I need to get to it. You write what speaks to your heart, and the people will come. And so those are the things I truly believe that keeps me grounded, and, always finding that story that I believe will speak to my reader's heart. And so, that's the goal for me. I want my readers to really benefit from what I'm writing. It's a goal for me that when they close a Vanessa Miller book, that it has done something, brought about some type of change, or even inspired them in some way, and that it's not just a book that meant nothing, and when you finish it, you don't think about it. I want the reader to be thinking about the thing that I'm trying to point to in the book long after they close the book. That's my goal. And I can't say I make it all the time, but that's my goal as a writer.
And that really is the difference between what makes a book at a times and what makes a timeless book is
Yeah.
that writing towards like that inner like your inner desire because we're all humans. We have very
Yes.
inner human like things that we're searching for in connection and writing to that versus like, oh, we have another fairy romantic book.
Right.
So, yes, I love that. So, what are some of your upcoming projects? Even though I know you're probably busy with the book tour with the filling station, do you have anything else coming up down the pipeline?
I am. I'm writing my next book, and so it's been a little difficult because I'm trying to balance this being on tour and also trying to finish my next book. And so March, I was pretty much gone, most days of the week on tour. So now April and May, what you'll find is that I'm home all week long because I'm trying to write. And then I am out on the weekends promoting the filling station because you still got to keep promoting that book. If you let it drop, and, there's always other books constantly coming out. So a writer, if you really believe in what you're doing, you really have to keep promoting it. You have to find some type of way. And it's always helpful when, your publisher is willing to help you with trying to find other ways to, get the word out about your book. But yeah, so I'm working on a book that is about Oberlin College, which was the first college to accept both white and black students in their school, and they went to classes together, they slept in the dorms together and things like that. And so it's really a matter of equality that I'm writing about in this one because the three black students who went to this school who were women who graduated with the 4-year degree, the first ones was Mary Church Terrell, Anna Cooper, and Ida Gibbs. And so those are the ones I'm mostly concentrating on Mary Church Terrell and Anna Cooper. So you'll see cameos of Ida Gibbs, but I'm trying to tell their story of because Mary Church Terrell begins this, big fight for women's rights and the right to vote. And so I'm telling this story from her younger years and how I'm trying to get the writer to see how she begins to feel so passionate about that. And so, yeah.
I love that, and I was like, "Why do I know those names?" And then I realized that I know them from I think I read Women Racing Class by Angela Davis, and she mentions
Mhm.
those Black women who, like, fought for suffrage too and often left out. So I was like, "Oh, I know those names," and when you pick up Vanessa's new book, you'll know those names too. But before the book
Absolutely.
comes out, I definitely recommend you look them up. So, have you had time to read anything lately? Are you reading anything?
So what I'm doing now is a lot of books on tape. Because no, I don't. I love to read, but I don't have time right now, and so I get a book in anyway I finished People of Means by Nancy Johnson on audio. Still listen Harlem Rhapsody. I haven't finished it, but I have started listening to it, and now I've started The Davenports. The Davenports is important to me because I've had it in my Kindle for the longest, but I hadn't had time to read it. But now I'm writing about these women who are, they're, at a young age. Mary Tershrell is about 18, 19. Anna Cooper's like, she's older when she starts college. She's about 23. But I'm like, okay, Mary Church Terrell is a woman of means. You know, her father was one of the first Black millionaires in America. And so, she comes to this college, with status, but you still understand that she also experiences racism, even though she has this status. But Anna Cooper does not have this status. And so I'm listening to the Davenports based on because they have a little status. And so the time period. So I was like, let me listen to this. And I am really enjoying this story. Why did it take me so long to get to this book? She has done an excellent job. Let me give her name to the people. Crystal Marquise. I hope I'm saying that right. The Davenports, though. She has done an excellent job writing that book. She has my attention. I'm loving it.
And that's one of the books that have been on my list forever. So I might have to.
You might have to pick that one. I'm not finished with it yet, but I can tell when a book is really gonna be interesting to me when whether I'm reading or listening, and I'm listening to this one, and I'm driving in the car on my way to Wake Forest because I had a book event down there. So 3 hours there, 3 hours back. I was like, okay, I'm listening to the Davenports. Immediately, I said to myself, wow, why did I wait so long? This is a really good book. It is.
Okay, I'm definitely going to pick that one next. And so my last question for you is, what advice would you offer listeners who want to make a positive impact in their community?
Well, the only advice I could give is to start somewhere, to do something. We all say we want to do this or we want to do that, but a lot of times people just never get started with what they want to do. And they always seem to find some hindrance. But if you just do a little something, like my church, we have missions and it's called Mission Blitz. And so it's like a 1-day activity, but the people who are in charge of it, they've planned all these things out, and you get to pick, what area you want to go in to help for that day. And it just feels good to be able to do something for the community. And so you just pick something. Years ago, I haven't done this in a while, but years ago, I would take even my grandkids with me, and we would go and help out at homeless shelters. You do something, making those beds and passing out the food as the people come and giving them a warm smile and helping them to see that, they are okay. Because a lot of times, people, may be in a bad situation at that moment, but that moment does not define the person. They can always get back up. So we always want to make sure we're treating people with compassion and empathy. So my thing is just find something and do it. I would called around and found those homeless shelters, and we would just go to them. And so, it's do something.
Yes, just start small, something, because
Yeah.
we get overwhelmed and we're like, oh, we've got to change the world tomorrow. And
Right.
it's just like, no, we're
No.
planting seed.
Yeah.
When you plant a garden, you plant a seed, not for the vegetable to be there tomorrow. So,
That's right.
yes. So, thank you so much, Vanessa, for being on the podcast. Where can people find you and your work?
They can find me at my website, which is just VanessaMiller.com, VANESSA. I'm on Facebook, Vanessa Miller Pierce. You can join me that's my regular page, or you can join me at Author Vanessa Miller on Facebook and Instagram. And I believe I'm Author Vanessa Miller on TikTok as well, but I don't know how to use that as well. I normally just go on there and scroll for my own entertainment when I should be working. But yeah, so those are the places that I can be found.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to link all those places in the show notes, as well as maybe not all 50, but But some of the most recent Vanessa's books in the show notes so you can check them out and all of those good things. And thank you, listeners, for being a part of the Liberation is Lit podcast. If you have stories to share, want to suggest any topics, or just want to connect, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Liberation is Lit, or visit our website, liberationislit.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. And remember, your voice matters. And together, through the lens of story, we're going to make a difference in the world. Until next time.
Thank you so much.